We're the Fortune 500 group, and I'm Katie Brown.
I'm Kayla Payne. I'm Liz Peterson.
Stacey Dale.
Tessa Baker.
Courtney Garmerhouse.
Erin Wilson.
Jason Davis.
Casey Carter.
Abby Marcinko.
And the title of our research is Closing the Loop, Reconceptualizing Message Control and Creating Dialogic Loop Through Maintenance of Corporate Weblogs. And one of the reasons why we chose this topic is because with the advent of social weblogs, consumers now have more power to create social change. And research from Seltzer and Midrick stated that with these new weblogs and the introduction of weblogs, there's a more potential for dialogic communication than with traditional websites. So with weblogs now, there's a better way to communicate between their publics. And so now, in our opinion, we stated that there's a need for that and that there should be more transparency between a corporation and its publics.
Our study examines Fortune 500 weblogs' potential to create two-way conversations between weblog authors and their active publics. We chose Fortune 500 companies because they represent the highest business success based on fiscal revenue and widespread public interest, but therefore setting the standard for other companies. Our study builds upon research by Kent and Taylor through a detailed content analysis of corporate weblogs. Our study further extends research from 2007 by Seltzer and Midrick and consists of a content analysis of Fortune 500 weblogs as well as a natural experiment. And due to the importance of dialogic loop, our study also looked at the quality of author responses as well as the degree of conversations on the weblog.
Okay, so like Katie already said, the research that we looked at by Seltzer and Midrick suggested that weblogs have a higher potential for creating dialogic communication between an organization and its publics than do the regular websites. So based on this research, we decided that our unit of analysis was going to be the entire weblog, including posts, comments, and the homepage. Our study posed 5 research questions. They are, number 1, are Fortune 500 companies reaching their potential for dialogic communication with their active publics through maintenance of a corporate weblog? Number 2, what features of the weblog correlate with higher levels of dialogic communication? Number 3, are naked conversations taking place on Fortune 500 weblogs? Number 4, are weblog authors more likely to publicly respond to a positive or a negative comment? And number 5, do weblog authors respond through private means to the commenter rather than pursuing public dialogue?
We chose the content analysis method because it allowed for a systematic and objective look at all of the weblogs. For equal comparison, we only focus on posts published between August 1st, 2009 through August 31st, 2009 for each weblog. Each of the 10 researchers coded 6 to 9 blogs, and as Kayla previously stated, the foundation of our code book came from previous research from Kent and Taylor and Seltzer and Midrick. Coding items are grouped into categories based on the 5 dialogic principles of Kent and Taylor. These include the ease of the interface, usefulness of information, conservation of visitors, generation of return visitors, and the dialogic loop theory. Additional categories included the strength of the link between the weblog and its corporate affiliate, as well as an examination for the presence of naked conversations. Naked conversations take place if a commenter unaffiliated with the corporation comes to its defense in a negative situation. We also included an experiment section in our research, as was previously stated. Due to research that we looked at from Seltzer and Midrick, which recognized the limitations of just doing a straight content analysis, we also wanted to put in an experiment to get some real-world data that we could really look at. So each of us who coded our blogs posted 1 positive comment on the most recent post of the blog, and then 2 weeks later posted a negative comment under a different name so that they couldn't tell that they were from the same person. We wanted to do this to see if more positive comments were posted than negative, if blogs were fielding out the negative. And in fact, 88.7% of the positive comments were posted, but only 61.6% of the negative comments were posted, so they were fielding out some of the bad ones. Also, we wanted to post negative comments to check for the presence of naked conversations.
In this study, we found that the weblogs included more items dialogic items in the intuitiveness and ease of interface index. In this 6-item index, 78.66% of the items were included, but the low performance was seen in the dialogic loop index, in which only 33.4% of the items were included. Our research was based on a previous research by Seltzer and Mittrick, who analyzed the potential of weblogs to increase dialogue with the company and their publics. And Seltzer and Mittrick also found a low occurrence of the dialogic loop items, which same as we found. And in 58.4% of the author, in 54.8% of the blogs, there's author response to commenters, which also shows that there might be more dialogue creation.
So in our natural experiment, we found actually that weblog authors were more likely to respond to negative comments than to positive comments. In fact, they were twice as likely. This shows that the authors were more concerned with correcting negative feedback than praising or agreeing with positive feedback. We also found that in 50% of the negative comments that were published, a naked conversation took place following it, showing that corporations can have faith in their loyal publics, that they'll come to the defense, and they'll leave these really trusted peer reviews on the corporate mediated site. Interestingly though, we found that comments, like the number of comments, isn't correlated significantly with any of the dialogic principles. This corroborates the idea that dialogue only begins with including dialogic features, and in order to actually create conversation, the weblog author needs to actively communicate with the publics using tactics such as responding to comments or engaging conversation by asking pointed questions in the posts. So we decided that it's very important that weblog authors are well trained and prepared to engage in dialogue, or else dialogue won't begin.
So our study definitely has some limitations. For one, our sample didn't include employee weblogs, campaign-specific weblogs, or any other social media. Also, that we didn't take into account the age of the weblog, which the older a weblog is, probably the more developed the community is, and also the more time the author has had to learn how to better improve their public communication. Also, the comments submitted to the experiment section were limited to the researcher's basic knowledge of the corporation. So because these comments might not be well in tune to the culture of the weblog, that might have affected the rate of naked conversations that we received. And also, we were only looking at a snapshot in time, but this snapshot also proved some very important practical implications.
Like Jason said, our study did have some really cool practical implications to be used for other companies' weblog maintenance. First, our findings suggest that corporations can increase their usefulness of information with the more authors that they have. We suggest not only having public relations professionals post on weblogs, but also knowledgeable professionals post topics specific to their expertise. Second, we would suggest including more Web 2.0 sharing applications. This provides a means of spreading corporate information requiring virtually no effort of the author of the weblog. And this can also help increase the reader base when a current reader posts something with that application, drawing in other readers. Third, we would suggest corporations consider their intended audience. In our study, 70% of weblogs identified their audience. By addressing a certain demographic or population subgroup, the readers are more likely to read a post for the same reason a person is more likely to take a survey if it has a selectivity statement. Finally, we suggest weblogs remain focused on their mission of creating dialogue with their publics. In our study, there were 9 advanced microdevices blogs, and they all provided valuable information to their public, a specific public with a specific knowledge base, and the weblog authors were consistent in responding to the commenters, and oftentimes responded with a probing question, which we suggest. Each AMD blog had a strong base of readers who frequently commented.
Future research that we would suggest doing is to intensively content analyze the author responses and the comments on the weblog, which are the focal point of conversations taking place on these weblogs. And also to study Fortune 500 corporations who use alternate forms of communication, like using Twitter or Facebook with their publics, in order to compare the difference in dialogic principles between corporate weblogs versus employee weblogs. And we would also like to do a user study to see who is actually coming to these weblogs. So that is what our research paper is about. Thank you.